Captain, incoming message.
It was the dawn of the third age of mankind. Groovy.
Hi-ho. This is me, Kermit the Frog.
Hello there.
I find your lack of faith disturbing. I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman!
Not a great plan.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
Let's see what's out there. Engage.
Hey there, we're those Sci-Fi guys, and this is that Those Sci-Fi Guys show. Just two working dudes, different lives, different jobs, but a whole lot of love for science fiction and the fun that comes with. We are your hosts. I am P.S. McKay. Just giddy. Giddy.
Giddy up.
Giddy up. Giddy up.
I'm DT Caveman, and I definitely say giddy up.
Oh, that's right. You were in the cavalry. Son of a gun. Now, hold on a second. You were in the cavalry. Did you ever do horse riding as your official training for the army?
No.
Ah!
But I will say, when moving out from my duty station in New York out to Fort Riley, Kansas, wife and I made a pit stop in Gettysburg. Both history nerds.
Sure.
Mrs. Caveman, who's grew up out there in the West, grew up, being taught to ride by her grandparents and whatnot. And I remembered reading from like 30 years ago a magazine that said you can do a horseback tour of the Battle of Gettysburg.
Son of a bitch! No
Sure-
way.
Sure enough, we did. We went down to the campground south of the battlefield.
Wow.
I looked it up. I checked it at the visitor center. We went. They had a pretty decent military discount. I had a cavalry shirt on. I had my black cavalry Stetson on, and we hopped on these horses. And we had old school headsets, which we could receive. We couldn't speak back, but
So you had an audio tour then on horseback.
we had a guide.
Okay.
Who had a boom mic. We just had,
okay. I gotcha. Okay. How cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
I had a powerful
I want to do that.
Named Bob.
Aw.
And let me tell
I'm
you,
sure it crossed your mind.
it was kind of cool. And then Bob bolted on me.
Really?
Somehow he got a little. I mean, I was just sitting there. We were just making our way back, and Bob, something either got under his saddle or something spooked him a little, and he lurched, and he looked like he was about to take off. And all those years of watching John Wayne movies and whatnot, I pulled back, I leaned back, and it's like, all right, whoa, and some bitch Bob slowed the fuck down. I kind of felt that I felt proud of myself.
Well, you should
not
be.
falling off and dying. One more soldier dead at the Battle of Gettysburg.
Oh, you would have been the latest casualty at Gettysburg. Oh my God. I mean, that would be a horrible thing. Don't get me wrong, but
funny enough, like 4 months prior, my recruiting unit in New York, we did this. Oh, it was the year before. I'm sorry, the spring before we did this staff ride, which is Army for Field Trip. We had this conference, and when we were recruiting, because it was a regional thing, our higher headquarters would pick a subunit headquarters. Like our headquarters was in Albany, our higher headquarters was in Maryland. But like when our big boss would come down to do a conference, we would go to different areas. So there we did one in Boston, we did one in Albany, we did one down in Virginia, we did one in New York City, we did one out in Pennsylvania, and we did it at a conference center near Gettysburg, and then we did a staff ride there. And I shit you not, we're lining up on one of the hills to take a big group picture, all all the captains and first sergeants and colonels and sergeant majors up there up on Little Round Top. And lo and behold, one of our first sergeants fell over a rock, sliced his leg open.
Oh. Damn it.
It's still taken. It's still taken.
It was still, well, it was his duty. Come on now.
Yeah. Anyway.
That's funny.
Ironically enough, Fort Riley and Fort Hood, which is now Fort Cavazos. Fort
Hood is Cavazos now?
Yeah, well, Hood was a Confederate general.
I
so,
know.
They named it after, I want to say,
they find another general that was named Hood or something? Less controversial.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm fine with the idea, but change is hard.
It is. I still call it Hood, but in a lot of ways, when I try to speak in the present tense, I refer to it as Fort Cavazos. It's kind of like, talking about when in 2019, I took my family and I to see the Cleveland Indians. I didn't take them to see the Cleveland Guardians. I saw the Cleveland Indians.
Yeah, you went to an Indians game. Yeah.
It is what it is. It was a Red Sox game. They were in Cleveland. That's what it was.
Well, there you go.
But yeah.
Well, you should just say Red Sox game in Cleveland. But
still, we went there. They were the Indians. Anyway, so since the 1st Cavalry Division is at Fort Hood, they have a literal horse detachment of like 25, 30 soldiers. It's for ceremonies. They dress in all like old school horse cavalry stuff. They ride.
Ooh, like 19th century cavalry? Really?
They do cavalry charges and stuff. And for a lot of the changes of command, like when somebody's outgoing, big changes of command, not like a company, small tier, but like when a battalion or brigade or higher is doing it, they'll do it on horseback. The colonels will be on horseback, and they'll ride around the formation, inspecting the troops, and they do it on horseback. And then they would usually have like a command picture of, usually like a brigade, which is about 5,000 people, and there's like 5 battalions, underneath them, and the colonels in charge of the battalions would all be up there on a horseback with a colonel who's in charge of the brigade. And, they're sitting there and there's like a big command picture. So that's like a big thing. Fort Riley, which literally was the home of the old cavalry school until like the 1920s when they were like, we're not doing horses anymore.
Yeah, they learned their lessons.
Well, they still have the commanding general's mounted color guard, which again, it's smaller than the Fort Hood detachment, but it's still, so like when we had our cavalry squadron had its change of command, we did not do the commanders trooping the colors. They used an old, a refurbished World War II scout vehicle, which they expected the troops with, which was cool, but they did have the mounted color guard there. And one of the things like, they had the commanders' kids bring out carrots for the horses. So, yeah.
I like that.
I'm surprised you didn't see them in like the Rose Parade, because one or the other usually, and I think there might be one at Fort Carson, Colorado too, but there's usually like in most of the Rose Parades they'll have.
There's so many horses at the Rose Parade. I know. So
of course,
when I marched,
you could have thought when you saw them that they were, reenactors from the Civil War, which
that's probably what I would have thought of. Yes, and when I marched in the Rose Parade, I was sequestered in a bus.
Yeah, but these are active duty soldiers.
Yeah, that's so cool. I like that.
I don't know what the requirements are. You might have to have some sort of.
You must apply, right? I mean,
yes, and it's not like any rando. Like they'll pick like somebody who's got.
You have to be of an exceptional background or something.
Yeah, you have to have a pretty good background, especially to command the mounted detachment. It's weird though. Like you'll walk into like the division headquarters, and they'll have like all the all the unit command pictures, and then there's this little captain wearing this Civil War, this post-Civil War cavalry uniform. Commander's Mounted Color Guard Detachment.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting thing to have on your resume.
That's really cool. I like that, and I appreciate that, and gosh darn, that's what makes this nation great.
Yeah. Well,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Have I said thank you for your service, sir? So,
I'm sure you have, but I appreciate it. I'm not one of those guys who goes, "You're welcome for my."
You're
service.
welcome.
And I'm not one of those guys who typically goes fishing for it.
Yeah. I would. I'd fish for it. I'd say, "You're welcome." I would be the worst veteran ever. I'd give veterans a horrible name. It would be awful.
I won't lie and say
then again,
I haven't snarked that at somebody, like playing up on the joke. Like, oh, has anyone ever mentioned? Oh, you mean you served in the military? Oh, yeah. You're welcome for my service. That sort of stuff. It's also something veterans will say to each other. Oh, you're welcome for my service.
Yeah. That's between veterans. That's different. That's hilarious.
Well,
actually.
It's yeah.
Well, what if you go to someone from another era? Like, I mean, are there any more World War II veterans? I mean, there's like a couple, but what if Korean veteran or a Vietnam veteran? Like, how you would hold a reverence, right? I mean, I would.
Yeah, you would.
As a young whippersnapper, as yourself.
Dude, I walked through I'm at the VA a couple times a month, man.
Well, that's true. You're right. So coming across them is not a new thing.
No. But, you see people, they're wearing Vietnam patches or hats or, Desert Storm or, the odd Korea. And I think, the occasional World War II here and there. Not many left, of course. But, you call him brother,
Right.
or grandpa. Sister, too.
Well, yeah, I mean.
You call them your brother and sister in arms.
Why'd you have to make it weird? I mean, yes, it would have been considered a sibling in arms, in any sense. I mean, it's the 20s, for God's sake. We're not looking at women as as the same members of camaraderie. Come on now, it's the 20s. Get with it. Not the 1920s.
Well, and I would give speeches. It was always brother and sister in arms. Why? Yeah. Because I served with, under and over male, female soldiers, and I'm sure probably people who now,
by the way,
identify as non-binary. I'm sure I had soldiers who probably didn't at the time, but do now.
We're not going to go there, but we're just talking.
I'm just saying.
Yes, you are. So, speaking of just saying,
when I first joined the military, I definitely knew there were some who were homosexual, but they weren't allowed to be out. And I was there. I watched. I was part of the group. We had to give. When they repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell, it was it fell to leadership to put out the policies, get briefed on the policies, all the changes, and really there was no change. Everybody was expected to do their job, but now you could be openly, gay in the military,
right?
Which shouldn't have been an issue in the first place, but whatever.
No, it feels really weird to say that they had to put in a don't ask, don't tell policy, but it was a time of transition. I know. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't. You got to do the future math on this kind of stuff. Like, how will the future look back? And well, unfortunately, the future's not very rational either. So, there's that too.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, math wasn't my strong suit. But
no,
I always.
Oh, I remember you agonizing on algebra. Trust me, I had the same agonizing.
I just remember, try to treat people with dignity and respect, no matter who or what they are.
It's not that hard.
If you're trying to blow me up, though, then fuck you.
Yeah, if they're an asshole to you, and perhaps your example is a bit extreme, I was trying to be a bit more moderate, but yes, if you're trying to blow me up, it's your ass. So
Hey, look, when you try to kill me, your rights kind of start to go out the window. I'm just saying.
Your rights end where your attempts to murder me begin. So
but I mean, you try to make sure that you're a decent person,
Right. Correct.
Otherwise, if we continue to act like shitheads, then we're not going to have that nice squeaky future that Gene kept talking about, even though he wasn't exactly the best example of it either.
He was the worst example of morals, of moral clarity. The worst.
Well, you remember the movie Serenity?
Yeah. Love that movie. Was thinking about rewatching it recently too, by the way.
The operative. He's like, Mal's like, oh, you're going to kill me and mine so you can live in your perfect future. And he's like, I can't live in that future.
Yeah.
Which, and when you think about it now, you're like, ooh, that's some serious foresight.
It is.
That's a self-awareness that is fascinating.
Well, I think that's been around since the 40s.
Oh, I don't doubt. I don't believe it was an original thought per se.
No, it's not. It's not. And I wasn't claiming that you were thinking that, but
it was pretty poignant when you look back on it. You're like, oh yeah. There's plenty of people in history who knows that they're not going to live in this hopefully new world that they're trying to build. Hopeful from their perspective. We all know that some people's ideas of a perfect world were
pretty
horrible.
WEF, I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you. They want us to eat bugs, man.
Who?
They want us to eat bugs. The World Economic Forum.
Ugh, pass.
Klaus Schwab. He's like a real world Bond villain. Like his statement is you'll own nothing and you'll be happy.
So he's a communist.
Not necessarily. But yes.
It's okay. He sounds like somebody who does insurance and stocks.
I do insurance. What the hell, man?
Well, I mean, maybe his cousin Charles can hook us up with some shit.
Maybe. Son of a bitch. You're right. I missed that one. As I always do. So, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
So, let's segue right into our topic for tonight.
Wait, didn't you want to say something? You wanted to share something on the pod.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, remember how before we got started, we were talking about, our kids growing up and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
And feeling old, like when you're watching sports. Well, this weekend, Mrs. Kaufman and I, it was our wedding anniversary, but, and which
Congratulations.
is 16 years. So pretty happy about that.
Yep.
We had a very nice weekend, just me and her. Our daughter stayed with her aunt and cousin, which she was ecstatic about, because we went out to Springfield and we went to the Red Sox winter weekend, which is kind of like a Comic-Con for Red Sox fans. And it was cool. We got to hear, got to sit in panels and listen to people like David Ortiz and Pedro Martinez.
Oh, yeah, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man. Pedro.
It was really good.
Pedro, I remember commercials with him in the mid-90s, and like it was for Dunkin' Donuts, and it was like, Pedro, is this the year? Is this going to be the year? And he's like, yeah, I think it's going to be the year that I finally get a dozen munchkins.
Yeah.
For Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah. So it's this year's the 20th anniversary of the curse-breaking 2004 World Series team.
Oh yeah,
so they had three members of the team: Jason Varitek, Pedro, Big Papi, come out. Probably would have had Wake, but he passed, and they had a very nice tribute to him.
Wasn't it a band of idiots that they called themselves?
They did. They called themselves the Idiots. Not idiots because they were dumb. That's something Pedro made a very is that they didn't care about what you thought. They just went out there and played kind of crazy, particularly in the second half of the year.
Yeah, they kind of had to. I mean, with the way the whole season was going, and especially with the way the playoffs were going.
I know, and they were. It was awesome. When they talked about Wake, everybody was kind of in tears, and then when they talked about all the personalities on that team and beating the Yankees, and Pedro had me in stitches the whole time. It was great. But they also had a panel with a bunch of the hot prospects, and they're like 21, 22, 20, 23, and then they have the youngest of their hot prospects is a 19-year-old kid, and then they also go and they do autograph and picture sections. And Mrs. Kaufman and I looked at each other and were like, we could be his parents.
Yeah.
This kid is actually in AA. He came in, and it's not like he's a kid. He was not like a kid who was a international signing from like Cuba or something, who's been, playing in some sort of professional league since he was 12. This is a U.S. kid who came right out of high school, spent his first year in A-ball, and then last year at 19 and made it to AA at the end of the year, and now he's going to start the year, go to spring training as a 19-year-old kid, probably at least start in AA.
19 years old, which would be 2005, 2004. Oh my God.
He's the fastest kid to make AA since Xander Bogaerts, at least in the Red Sox system.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, and Xander came up at 20. Rafael Devers came up at 20. I mean, we're talking, and and I go back, these are the kids who were international free agent signings, not a kid who was drafted, instead of going to college and went straight to, minor league baseball. But I don't know, it was just wild when we're sitting up there and going, man, these kids are young. And then they're like signing autographs for 40, 50, 60-year-old people. And you're like, then I know there was dudes in line going, I could be your grandpa.
Oh, it's true. I mean, everyone who played in all of the playoff games this past weekend for the NFL, younger than us.
Oh, yeah. There's no more Tom Brady.
There's no more Tom Brady. Everyone is younger than us.
The oldest guys on the field, I think Aaron Rodgers might be the oldest. He might be the oldest active player.
Yes, he's not the oldest active player, but I thought he was older than us because I was talking about this with
He's not.
Mrs.
He was
McKay.
drafted in 2005.
I freaking know. Believe me, I was there when Cal beat USC, and he was the quarterback for Cal. I know.
Dude's a fucking weirdo, though.
He's got his angles. I mean, I'm not here to judge.
He's a conspiracy theorist. He's nuts.
Hey, listen, I'll just say this,
dude.
All I gotta say is this: I would have said the same thing until middle of 2020, and now all the conspiracies seem quite plausible now. So
all I'm saying is, man, I'm not saying I would kick him off the football team for throwing touchdowns. I mean,
right.
he's a straight up odd duck. There's no doubt about it. He's a straight up odd duck. But dude can ball.
He can ball.
He's healthy. As long as he's healthy.
Poor guy. Four plays in.
I think he made like something like $7 million per minute that he was in. It was something like, when you stretch it, I think it was supposed to make like 28 million or 30 million. He was making like $8 to $10 million a minute that he played this year.
Give him credit though. He worked real hard to rehab himself so he could come back before the end of the season. So he didn't write himself off for the season. He worked hard to try to get back.
But he was full of shit because there was no way he was coming back. He got close-ish, but no medical professional in their right mind was going to let this guy back on the field unless maybe they got to the second round of the playoffs.
Sure.
Maybe.
Sure.
Anyway.
But it's the Jets, so fuck them.
It's the most Jets play since the butt fumble.
It
really is. It's the most Jets offense.
And that's Mark Sanchez, by the way. He's a lauded USC player. Oh my God.
Lauded?
Believe me, lauded. Yeah, USC loved him when he played for that one season, and he was out for 3 games. But they loved him. I mean, honestly, 2009 probably would have been a little bit better if Mark Sanchez came back, but he realized that he could make more money, and that's when Matt Barkley came in, and we had a true freshman playing for the first time in USC's history. So, but and we beat Ohio State that year, but then we went 8-5 or 8-4, which was our worst season as far as I remembered, because whatever. Anyway. Speaking of wicked pisses, I sent you something. I sent you something the other day.
Today.
So this is my fault. Today's subject is my fault because I forgot to watch Masters of the Universe 2002. My fault. My sincerest apologies. I'm falling on the sword. But it sucks. It does suck. But I sent you a picture. Was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday because yesterday was Monday. It was something. I don't know.
This week.
It was this week. Today's Tuesday that we're recording, everybody. So why is this doing that? There we go. So I sent you something where I'm like, what are your thoughts on this? I'm going to bring this over to our faithful web people who are watching the stream right now. Can't do that. Don't do that. Okay.
Be careful what you have in the background.
I know, right? So this is a post on Star Trek Forever Facebook where it's it's like just a photo
montage. Collage.
Collage, thank you. I was looking for collage. I said montage, but a photo collage of Tilly from Star Trek Discovery. Sylvia Tilly. And here's the post about it. Setting the standard for all Starfleet officers that came after her, Sylvia Tilly is one of the most decorated people to ever grace the uniform. A veteran of the Klingon Wars and helping define the Operations Division, Lieutenant Tilly is the perfect blend of beauty, sex appeal, intelligence, and strength. And what I did was I sent you this post and I said, I need your thoughts on this. I didn't say it exactly like that, but I need your thoughts. I think I disagree. And what was your response? Because you know this character better than I do.
I have issues with a lot of the characterizations of a lot of the depictions of the characters in Discovery.
Sure.
Okay.
And by the way, this is depictions of characters, by the way. We are not picking on any of the actors in any way, shape, or form. Actors are fine. They're off limits. We're talking about writing and characterization and the fluff that goes in to try to boost the appeal of New Trek.
Look.
Sorry, that's my angle that I'm looking at. I already gave it away. So
Mary Wiseman brings a vibrance to this role.
Mm-hmm.
But
I agree.
A lot of characters in Discovery are pretty two-dimensional. And they kind of bailed on some of Tilly's earliest character issues because she kind of shows herself, particularly in the first season or so, as she might be neurodivergent, maybe on the spectrum somewhere. She's got some quirks.
A little bit of social anxiety, I would say.
There's definitely some social anxiety.
I don't know how much more neurodivergent you would be with that, but She's
Well,
unsure of herself, but that could be part of the whole social anxiety.
there is that. There's a lot of quirkiness with her, which we spent time recently talking about the pluses of Reg Barkley showing aid.
I'm sorry, I interrupt you, but I do have a video about Reg Barkley that I want to show you after we talk about this and the next post. So, but yes, we did talk and lauded the idea of having Reginald Barkley in TNG.
Reg Barkley was like the first imperfect, I think. It's hard to say because there were some one-offs here and there, but this is a character.
He was the first unpolished character in Starfleet that we saw.
I mean, aside from maybe Sonia Gomez, who dumps her hot chocolate.
But that could have happened to anyone. Sonia Gomez was just loud in that scene, and that was fine. That's fine. I mean, she was talking to Geordi. She was distracted, and she turned around. And Picard, for his part, could have backed away because he would have seen them coming a mile away. but that didn't happen. So,
but you get, I think, the first long-running character who was not polished, who had issues, and
we're talking about Barkley,
who, while a generally competent at his job, was kind of a mess.
Yes.
And dealing with social anxiety and confidence issues, which I think they were trying to put some of that in Tilly and combining it with the young character, the youth. She's a cadet, right? She starts as a cadet.
Was she a cadet or was she an ensign?
She was a cadet.
She was a cadet. Okay.
See, this is the Discovery Strange New Worlds thing where they drop a cadet on like a full
what the
time.
hell? I mean,
now that
I
being
know
said,
that there is precedent for doing this for a year.
Nog.
Yeah.
Nog was, I think, and of course you have Wesley, who the Wunderkind.
He was just a Mustang up until they were like, well, you still need to go to the academy even though you're an officer. Okay.
I mean, once Picard and Riker made him like a full lieutenant or full ensign, he actually didn't need to go to the academy.
No, he didn't need to go. That's a recent realization I had. Like, why do you need to go? You're an ensign. You're a field promoted officer. And obviously you're extremely smart. And he didn't get into the academy, by the way, the first time he applied.
In fairness, somebody did cheat.
True.
But so you have this acting ensign, this civilian basically, who was flying the ship. Then he gets field promoted. Okay, so you do have some precedent there. He was never Cadet Crusher flying the ship. And once he went off to the academy, anytime you saw Cadet Crusher, it was in a guest role. Nog went to the academy, was about a year or so at the academy, but he would show back up from time to time, which I'm certain was, I don't know, leave.
Yeah.
A spring break or something to go, or maybe he was, given some, they always, when he would show up, he would always have shit going on. But then he ends up on Deep Space Nine for like the last, I don't know, 4 or 6 episodes of season 5.
Yeah.
And they, put him on the ship, and he's a cadet at war.
Yeah.
And he's a cadet until they promote him to ensign, which doesn't come until like partly season 6. So it's there's
Useful
precedence in
cadet
Star
at war,
Trek.
by the way. Yeah.
Yes. Clearly it's a Star Trek thing, right?
Sure.
So cadets at war, we have that apparently. I had a friend who was supposed to go and do what we call in the Army cadet troop leadership training, where after your sophomore year for ROTC cadets, you can apply and be sent to an active unit and shadow a lieutenant for 3 to 4 weeks. If you're a West Pointer, they'll send you like after your sophomore year for some weird reason. But
Sure.
anyway, you shadow somebody for at most a month in between, your spring and your fall semesters, not a full year or whatever they do in Starfleet. Now, granted, I get it with Starfleet's mission being primarily exploration. Maybe you need to do a year, but like I don't know. You hear people, I'm doing a semester at sea. I don't know if the Naval Academy does that, a full semester at sea. But
I don't. Yeah, I wouldn't know that either. You would know more than I, but yeah. And
anyway,
as a shadower, you would be more of an attaché to that officer than actually shadowing, right? Like you'd do all the bitch work.
So depends on what the intent is by your commanding officer. So when I went, they just had me shadow this guy, but I went to a kind of a specialty unit that their whole job is to be opposition force at training bases.
Sure.
So like when a unit's rotating through to go somewhere, you're playing the bad guys. So
yeah.
And it was a down cycle. So I got to shadow and see some of the admin stuff they were doing. They showed us some ways to do some evaluations and stuff like that. They showed us how to do an inventory of equipment, which as a leader, you have to inventory your equipment. And then, we did different stuff, but there were some people who would go and end up putting, I had a friend who went to a unit. The lieutenant said, "All right, they're all yours. I'm going on leave for a week." And
oh, damn.
Left this kid basically pseudo in charge. And when I was a lieutenant, and
like in charge of enlisted.
Yeah. I mean, he had sergeants guiding him.
Yeah, the sergeant. Yeah, I mean, the sergeant was there to help.
The platoon sergeant was helping guide this kid, like you kind of do with a brand new lieutenant anyway.
Well, yeah. Believe me, all I know about this is from reading my alternative history books from Harry Turtledove, and they talked about, oh man, the sergeant. It was from the sergeant's point of view, talking about this newly graduated lieutenant,
wet behind the ears
lieutenant that didn't know shit and was ready to bring the oh god, what do you call him? This I'm going to say the squad. It's not the right word.
Platoon.
The platoon, ready to bring the platoon over the hills to certain death. And it was the sergeant's job to say, probably a better idea to do something that you suggested earlier, sir.
I freely admit that I was wet behind the ears and had no practical experience when
everyone is wet behind the ears
unit.
at some point in their life.
But I went in knowing I had authority, but knowing I didn't have experience. So I leaned a lot on my non-commissioned officers, and they helped me.
That's what a good leader does. They recognize their weaknesses, recognize the strengths in others. So there you go.
So my point about this is like when I had a kid come and shadow me, I had him assist me with things. I gave him projects to do that might have been something on my plate that helped free me up for something else. And then we were in the simulators, and I said, all right, you are going to get in one of the simulated tracks, and you're going to roll with the platoon. He's like, okay. And then as a captain later on, I had a company. They sent me a kid, and we were doing a digital exercise where we were running command posts and we were doing digital combat. So like we were maneuvering vehicles in a digital world,
Okay. Yeah.
not in a simulator, but like on computers. And that was a start. And then you'd go to simulators and so on. But we were doing this big digital exercise, and I had this kid in there, and we had a little company headquarters, and I started rotating all of my lieutenants through running the command post so they'd get a chance to it. And I put him in charge. I'm like, you're doing a shift. You're going to learn how to run this. You're going to get some experience. You're going to work, you're going to shadow this lieutenant. You're going to shadow that lieutenant. You're going to shadow me, but you're also going to do this. And so we tried to work things out, but yes, if you were put in charge of anything, it was short term only. So again, I can't exactly speak to what our current Navy does per se. And I do know that this in Star Trek, they just say, all right, you haven't graduated the academy. Sure, you can be a communications officer. At least Tilly, I'll say this, at least Tilly was like in the science department,
Yes.
She was like working for Stamets or something like that. Uhura was like the communications officer I guess, what was she like, an alternate communications officer, but she ended up doing like all the communication shit in Strange New Worlds in the season 1.
Yeah, it was one of those things. Yeah, and we never saw the actually assigned communications officer.
Yeah, everything always seemed to go down when Uhura was on the bridge.
Right, exactly. So, again, I mean, let's chalk that up to the writers not knowing shit. But I want to bring this back to Tilly, or not caring.
So, well, I did all of this to make this point, right?
Please.
So you have Tilly, who is a cadet. Again, by the time Tilly's there, the Klingon War is already on. I don't know why they're not fully trained. I mean, if you're getting experience, but it tactically doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I had a buddy who was supposed to go to the unit in Italy for his, but then that unit deployed, and so they didn't send him to Italy. The unit was going to a combat zone. They're not sending cadets to that. It just didn't sit right with me that you're putting these untrained kids still on warships, essentially. You know what I mean? Of course you do. I appreciate that. So, I mean, that's what always, at least when it came to Tilly, right? Because it didn't make any sense. I mean, she was a fresh out of the academy cadet, or fresh out of the academy ensign. That makes more sense. Maybe if I don't remember, because it's been a while since I've watched season 1. I don't know if it was like they rushed kids out of the academy to backfill. But when they did that during the Civil War, they just promoted them to lieutenants. They didn't, say, oh, here you go, cadet. You're part of the crew.
Right. They rushed.
They just commissioned you faster.
Yeah.
So for me, that always rang funny to me. So, all right. So she's scared shitless kid, right? Which she should be.
Fine. She should be. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And I found her endearing and likable in the first season, by the way. I've only seen the first 3 seasons of Discovery. So
what bothered me too, and of course, now that you know that Lorca was evil, putting Tilly, a brand new impressionable cadet, in with a convicted mutineer, not a great idea.
No, and by the way, a convicted mutineer who was mentoring her.
Yeah.
Mentoring her. Like, well, you want to be an officer? This is what you need to do. And by the way, the intentions were good.
After she kind of shit on her a little at first.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And the intentions were good for that. But yeah, convicted mutineer who mentored her, because who else was she going to turn to? Again, Burnham, for all her faults, was still a very self-assured person. And any self-assured person that enters into a room with someone who's not self-assured is going to take precedent and going to take command of the room. I'm not even talking about the situation, but just the room. Like, and that changes the dynamic completely.
Yeah. So Tilly is, Burnham does help her kind of come out of her shell and try to help her be more assertive. I actually think it was the later interactions with Saru that really kind of unlocked more of Tilly's capabilities.
Sure.
You start to see that in season 3, although that then runs into the issue I have with good order and discipline on a starship that just got flung 900 years in the future, and you go ahead and you promote an ensign to the role of first officer over what I would assume were dozens of more senior officers, including the entire bridge crew, which was at least battle hardened through 2 years.
Right.
And they're all happy for it, like, oh my God, yay!
Don't forget, she set the standard for the operations division, apparently, according to this post.
This is bad writing.
This is terrible writing.
This is bad writing. If she was that awesome, then you would have to promote her. There was
never a point where I looked at her as being a superior Starfleet officer in any way, shape, or form. Like, and when I think about Starfleet officers, I look at Starfleet officers as people that I want to aspire to be. Like a Starfleet officer is the pinnacle of performance, of duty, of ability, or of learning, right? A master of emotions. You're still emotional. You're still subject to the whims of that, but it doesn't control you. You are in control as a Starfleet officer.
So, yeah, by season 3, Tilly's confidence was much higher. Particularly, on the bridge, had one of these moments where, like, she basically says, like, fuck around and find out to some of the Orions of the Emerald Chain or whatever it was, which was cool and all, but still, if I had been somebody like Detmer or Osakan or most of these bridge, right, and that's part of the problem. But they're all lieutenants or lieutenant commanders, and they're all like, "Oh, okay, I'll be happy to take directions from this ensign who has as much time, who didn't even graduate the academy."
Yeah.
I could understand being, even in the enlightened 23rd century, which they clearly weren't in this 23rd century, or in the 31st century, there'd be some cheesed off fuckers, okay? I tell you that without a doubt, okay? That is complete and utter terrible discipline, which would completely undermine Tilly's growth as an officer.
Right.
Okay.
Sure. Because she wasn't ready. And if you're not ready as an officer and you have that awful experience, it's going to stunt you.
Yes. I mean, look at what happened to Kirk in the Kelvin universe. In his second movie, he gets demoted.
Yeah, he gets demoted. He turns to everyone and says, "I'm sorry, we're all going to die." Like, what?
Look, I'm not saying classic Trek nailed down military discipline very well, because at times they really didn't. But it's like, that's just so good order and discipline, and all this shit out the window for half-assed writing.
Right, okay? And that's my point.
That's part of my problem with Tilly, is that I think they did disservice to the character by putting this character in, even for Star Trek, completely unbelievable situations.
Agreed. And yet the way the way that they promote this character, we're all supposed to venerate her and to find
And I'm
her.
sorry, I disagree with how they lay out this article.
I completely agree too. So now let me bring you to the next example.
So she's more decorated than Kirk. She's more decorated than Janeway.
O'Brien. I want to bring O'Brien on. He's not even an officer. He's a chief petty officer. Okay? Enlisted man.
The first real non-commissioned officer with any sort of character development at all in Star Trek.
From beginning to end. From beginning to end. Literally in the 23rd century. Like
24th century.
24th century. Sorry, you're right. So I'm going to read this to our people who are following us on video.
Mm-hmm.
Same Star Trek Forever account. One of the richest resumes in Starfleet history belongs to Chief Miles O'Brien. From con officer to transporter chief to chief of operations to chief engineering officer of a capital ship. First of all, not a capital ship, but okay. Chief O'Brien was a first in Star Trek, the common working man. He's a family man with a wife and kids, like sharing a pint and a game with his friends, notably Bashir, Worf, Dax, Nog, LaForge, Data, and Riker, and has a rich career as an enlisted man in Starfleet. A veteran of the Borg conflict and the Dominion War, Professor O'Brien has much to teach the next generation of officers and crewmen.
Well, first,
this rubbed me the wrong way.
It did, because they talk about one of his richest resumes, and they talk about him being a good chum, which is great. That's definitely something good, but
not a resume issue.
No, they leave out, which numerous episodes of both The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine talk about. He's a veteran of the Cardassian Wars. He did the veteran of the Borg conflict, the Dominion War, and all the problems on Deep Space Nine. But guy
I would argue
the
Cardassian border conflicts defined this man.
Well, he basically was, as an enlisted man, made the tactical officer aboard a starship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And okay, basically what they talk about him as a transporter chief, but if you listen to how like Picard describes him in Emissary and some of the other things, you kind of get the feeling that O'Brien was like the chief of transporters on the Enterprise.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's like the most senior, which is why you might have him, and this is at least in my head, why he would be wearing at times these lieutenant ranks, because even though he's a chief, he's like treated as an officer.
Sure.
I mean, honestly, Captain Picard made Wesley a fucking ensign. He could make Chief a fucking lieutenant if he wanted to in a heartbeat.
And he never did, but he kind of did. But yeah, I know. And you know, that's a...
You never know. O'Brien could have turned it down too, because he told people in whatever it was,
DS9,
past tense.
Yeah,
in past tense. He's like, that's why we stayed an enlisted man.
Yeah, all that pomp and circumstance, and just
well, that's why he didn't get
the politics
into the past.
Yeah, that's right. But does it sound like Chief O'Brien is as decorated as Tilly? It definitely makes
by the
him
time
sound
we
nice.
leave Tilly, okay, to where we leave O'Brien has fought in. They also forget the Klingon War.
Oh yeah, that's right, the Klingon War. So three major wars,
conflicts.
4 major conflicts. Yes.
Yep.
The Borg incursion was a conflict, not necessarily a war.
Right. But
I know it's splitting hairs. I know.
I know, but it was a
battle hardened soldier.
Exactly. I mean, a guy who had to survive some of the most harrowing situations in Star Trek history, right?
Right. And these are supposed to be 2 everyman characters. They made Tilly the way she was because they wanted the audience to relate to her. O'Brien was an everyman in the sense
O'Brien
that he literally was an
is
everyman. Like
he's the blue collar. He's the non-commissioned officer.
yes.
He literally had his sleeves rolled up for for 5 seasons on Deep Space Nine.
And we loved it. I loved it. It was great. O'Brien, probably my favorite character as an adult. Like, not just because he's Irish, by the way, but
He's a
I
parent.
forget that he's a parent, a wonderful husband.
He's married with kids. He has problems with kids. He has problems with his wife. He's a blue collar guy who gets the work done, and he's just as smart as any of these other college boys, you know.
And you've got Cisco going to him, going, Chief, what do we need to do to make this work for you? Well, well, Captain. And then they'll do whatever he says, because Chief was just like that, you know. He was, but this post doesn't reflect that, and I feel like
this is like a recommendation for your drinking buddy.
Exactly.
Which
Exactly.
I'm sure O'Brien would be a great drinking buddy.
I would love to have
he
a pint
definitely
with
looks
O'Brien.
like it.
I would love, but
They talk about the richest resume, and they really shortchange it. Okay, con officer to transporter chief to chief of operations. Okay, not bad, but you know, you're missing a conflict. You're missing. I mean, they literally he said he wrote something like 17 in one episode. He's like, this is like the 13th or 14th one of these letters I've written to Keiko.
yeah,
Or one of these letters I've written. If that was just
letter.
to Keiko, then that's been a lot of shit in the time.
Yeah.
Because they'd only been married like 4 years by that time.
Exactly.
You know? The fact of the matter is, these short series, and I know Discovery Season 1 had like 15 episodes, but O'Brien had more character development as a background character in however many episodes of The Next Generation than some of these characters on Discovery have in the entire series.
He was a more endearing character as a background character in Data's day. And it wasn't even about O'Brien. Like, it was, I mean, that episode showed us who O'Brien was. And he was a background character. And it was delicious. It was wonderful. Like, it showed who
if that
marrying.
episode had been made like 15 years later, he would have died. Because
exactly.
A background character who gets that much screen time.
Oh my God, yes. Exactly. Exactly. So what I want to say is, and I'm going to go ahead and just, I'm going to go out on a limb here and make an assumption. I know what happens when you assume, but I feel like the people that are in charge of Star Trek Forever, and a lot of people who are in charge of promoting Star Trek in its current form, are doing the best they can to try to make the new characters look better than the classic characters. And I'm going to have to say classic is now all the way through Enterprise, because that was 19 years ago. That's a long time ago now. It sucks.
And before.
Yeah, it sucks to say that, but all those are classic Star Trek now. I feel like
the Roddenberry era.
The Roddenberry, there we go. I feel like that they're doing this to artificially kind of inflate the new characters. And you and I are smart enough to know this is bullshit. And because we recognize that the writing is far inferior.
You know which new Trek characters have more development, who have the most development, has been the characters in the animated series.
In the what?
In the animated series.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Mariner.
And again, I haven't seen it all, but
Jesus Christ.
Apparently, even the people, even the characters on Prodigy.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen Prodigy at all, but I hear that's got great writing, and probably those are the two series that have least involvement with Kurtzman and Akiva Goldsman and whatnot, because that's supposed to be for kids. It's stupid. That
they also have
that's
the most
that's below them.
They have the most involvement with classic characters too.
Oh sure, yeah, absolutely.
And actors, with actors.
Yeah. So I wanna point out something here. I think you've seen this. I might have sent this to you.
Perhaps I'm not sure I'm familiar with this. Now, please don't get us wrong, folks. We're not trying to crap all over if you love Discovery or Picard or any of these new treks we've discussed having some issues with, and I'm definitely not shitting all over Mary Wiseman or even really Tilly. What I am concerned about is some of the
quality of the
that
writing
does a disservice to the character.
Right. And I think this video clearly explicitly shows that. So we just saw a comparison between Tilly, who was a cadet, non-commissioned officer.
No.
Cadet.
No, wrong.
I'm sorry. You're right. She wasn't an
their
officer.
Own thing.
I know they're their own thing. You're absolutely correct. I was trying to point out that she wasn't an officer, but yes, you're right.
She is not a commissioned officer, but she is not a non-commissioned officer.
You are correct. You are correct. I'm not arguing with that. You're right. That's sacrilege.
Words have meaning.
I get it. All words, those words have meaning, especially yes. But
especially
they were trying to point out.
Spent a while talking about O'Brien, who is a non-commissioned officer.
Correct. Those are the two. I would say those are supposed to be the two Star Trek everyman. The relatable characters in one form or another. Even though I know Riker, Geordi, even Data are relatable in certain ways too. These are supposed to be the most like everyman relatable.
I'm starting to feel more and more like Picard.
Yeah. Believe me, I look in the shower drain. It's alarming for myself. So
you're starting to get some Klingon forehead, man.
A little bit. The razor's developing. This is a comparison between commanding styles between classic Trek and TNG and Star Trek Discovery. Now, to be fair, the Discovery commanding style is from a Star Trek short about the Tribbles episode. I know.
This is gonna hurt.
It is. It's gonna suck. It's 3 minutes. Bear with me. You're gonna watch it though, and our listeners can hear it. Okay, it's not. It'll still work. So here we go.
I guess the question is whether Mr. Barclay is Enterprise material.
And I assume by your request for his transfer that you think he's not, Commander. There's every indication that he served competently in Starfleet for years.
I've examined Barclay's psychological profile. He has a history of seclusive tendencies.
And yet he chose this way of life. He had made the same commitment to Starfleet that we all have. It's easy to transfer a problem to someone else. Too easy. He's a member of your team. Try to find some way to help him to make a positive contribution. Get to know the man better.
I just don't think you're the right fit for the kind of work we're doing here, so I've requested to have you transferred.
Captain, but...
This conversation's over. You're dismissed.
Right, but...
This is the end of the conversation.
Captain, if I could...
You can't.
Right, but I have this...
The conversation's
Pause
over.
it for a second.
Okay.
That's the end.
Well, I mean, in all fairness,
That's
they did pick H. John Benjamin. I mean, come on. This is what he does in everything.
I know, but still, I know that's the angle they were going for. We know that, but
it's also
it's not Star Trek.
It's like the conversation you're having with like a 6-year-old. But
exactly, it's not Star Trek.
Yeah, keep going. God, I hate her.
Technically, the conversation is not over because I can keep talking, and then the conversation is
I don't know how you made it this far in your career behaving like this. This is why I ended the conversation. I'm having you transferred. End of conversation.
It would be rude and irresponsible to end a conversation.
The conversation's over.
But
Edward.
Remember earlier I said...
Larkin.
Yep.
There's a transport coming in 2 days, and you're going to be on it.
It's easy to transfer a problem to someone else.
Message my bosses and told them I was done.
I made one of the most important scientific discoveries of our time. I'm not the dumb one.
Curious. The captain's usually the last to leave.
One crew member was tragically lost. How do you explain that?
He was an idiot.
Try harder, Geordie. He's a member of your team. Try to find some way to help him to make a positive contribution.
And that's an emphasis right there. So
They
we don't need to.
They keep redoing the same stuff from the Next Generation. I mean, they could have chose some. I mean, there's more from.
It was an emphasis.
Picard.
It was. I know. It was.
I get
there's
it. I
other
get it.
things,
And
but-
you know what? Completely correct. And I've had to be in that position. Where, all right, well, we've got to try to do something with this individual. Find a way that to play to their strengths. It's not always
Sure.
easy. And there are times when you have to maybe not transfer them, but say, all right, your time is done. You are no longer, I mean,
And that's not something you want to say.
So, and here's the thing, like the military, even most jobs won't let you just transfer a problem. They demand to see paperwork. You have to show for cause. You have to have a list, so many marks or so many, you have to show progression, not that you just don't like this guy and you want them gone, at least not in a well-run corporate environment. And in the military, it's all about showing paperwork. You can't just give this guy disciplinary action you can give verbal counseling, written counseling, if they're failing to meet their duties or attitude issues. And in fairness, Edward was extremely insubordinate.
Yeah.
We're not done yet.
No, we're not. We're not. Sorry.
But that almost seems like you might want to bring in a counselor too, because there's clearly a psychosis with this guy.
Exactly. I don't think a gentleman like that would have made it that far into the service as it stood.
You never know with these Star Trek scientists. I always show you the weird ones who go over. Star Wars scientists are like mad scientists.
They are. They're the Frankensteins, but the entire idea, like literally, I took this episode to heart with the TNG, the Hollow Pursuits one, because I was a manager and I had someone who just wasn't getting it. And this episode rang out true to me because I'm like, well, I could easily say this guy's not going to. Sorry. Son of a bitch.
What are you doing?
I hit the pause button. Sorry. I could easily say that this guy's not going to get it. They don't understand how it works. Like, we're done. Like, they're never going to get it. But I didn't do that. I remembered this, and I sat there with that person. I worked extra hard. I learned from this person, and I figured out how to teach them on their level, which wasn't, it wasn't below me. It was just a different angle. That's it.
I had a kid who had some issues too.
By the way, he was with the company for another 5 years afterwards, so it was a successful move. So
it's either that or you didn't do enough paperwork.
Shut up.
Well, it sounds like if you invest in your people, you will find out which ones will be able to grow and which ones will not. And sometimes you do have to cut ties with those. I mean, for the benefit of your organization.
Right.
Civil or military. Sounds like you took a TV show to heart, learned a lesson, because that's what a lot of Trek does. They're supposed to be teaching lessons, right? Some of them. And this was a good lesson. Picard.
So what was the lesson from that short Trek?
There was no lesson.
There was no lesson. They were trying to be entertaining, but
it wasn't.
Exactly, and that's my point.
They go ahead and they drag Anson Mount into it by like, oh, we're gonna miss you and good luck on your command. And her first command, her starship gets eaten and blown up by tribbles because she can't figure out how to get through to this one dude who's kind of just more misguided than anything.
Right. And psychopathic. I mean, he resisted her because she couldn't get through to him because she wasn't ready for command. I think someone else could have gotten through to her. I think it could have worked.
I don't think anybody could have gotten through to her.
No, you're right. Not her. Someone else could have gotten through to him. I feel like that.
By the way,
that
boo on Pike for recommending this girl.
I know. Think about that.
She's acting like a schoolgirl.
Right. Exactly.
She wasn't acting like a commanding officer.
Not in the slightest.
Tried to dress her up to look like one. You know who looked like a pretty damn good commanding officer? Una. She doesn't take shit from anybody.
And you know what? I accept that. I accept Una. Number one. Could have been a better first name, but I accept Una, right? I accept her. And I like her character. It's fine. It's good. I mean, and here's something else that I'm going to point out. Okay. So you saw how Picard went to Geordi, went to Riker, and said, I need you guys to do better. Now, he didn't just say do better. He said, here's how you could do better.
But he also said, do better. He didn't say, well, have you tried? No, he said, do better. He basically gave that an order.
And here are examples of what you can do. And Geordi, for his part, followed it. Riker didn't need to follow step by step because it was Geordi's problem. Riker just didn't like Barclay.
Yeah, this wasn't a great Riker episode, to be fair.
No, there's not a lot of great Riker episodes after Best of Both Worlds, but
Best of Both Worlds was fantastic Riker episode. But there were others like Frame of Mind was a.
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
You know,
I'm just saying.
Some great, but
I'm just saying
this one just didn't make Riker look good, really.
I don't.
This was before Best of Both Worlds.
No, it was after.
I thought this was
it was before.
3.
You're right. It was before. You're right. I'm sorry.
And anyway,
I'm wrong. I'm just saying I don't.
Geordi really did.
Go ahead.
Geordi bought in.
Geordi bought into the feedback,
which is kind of good because Geordi kind of had not so much an everyman, but like he had this good guy kind of persona, right? Somebody you could talk to, but somebody who could get the shit done. And seeing, because he also mentored Wesley, and this was not a good look on Wesley either. But
no, not at all.
Ironically, I honestly, Geordi working with Barclay would have been fascinating. It was fascinating because he actually took time to talk to him. But what would have been an interesting look is Data talking with Barclay, and here's why. They both
all ears.
Are out in some ways in social settings are both out of place.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe that's why Geordi's the mentor to both of them in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I can see that.
He's helping Data to learn to be human, and in some ways he's kind of helping Reg Barclay learn to be, not saying human, but develop some of these skills. In some ways, he's also teaching Data how to develop these skills. But it would be almost interesting to hear Data and Barclay have a conversation about struggles.
Sure. And think about it like this, too. Geordi himself is also kind of can relate to being the outside person because he has no idea how to talk to women.
No.
None. He has no idea. He's got no game. None.
He has no game, but he's as confident as anything else with anything else.
His profession and friends.
With his friends.
Yes, absolutely. So, but there's
to be
that
honest
element.
With you, he also fell in love with a hologram too. So
I know. Yeah, Riker. Anyone else fall in love with a hologram?
Doesn't? Really? Who doesn't? Yeah, Riker.
Who wouldn't?
Geordi.
Honestly. Like Riker, Riker Bridge. If you need me, I'll be in holodeck 4.
But what you see in this episode is examples of good and bad leadership. The actual episode, Hollow Pursuit, Riker was not exhibiting good leadership.
He was not. No.
He was exhibiting. Maybe he felt he needed to hold the hard line because as the XO. As the first officer, he's supposed to. I'm supposed to take care of this crew, right? That's what he always took for himself, right?
Sure.
He did it with Kern. He did it with Jellicoe. stand for the crew, right? Take care of the crew. He did that with Kargan on the Klingon ship. I'm here for the crew, that sort of thing. So I know that's something that Riker takes very seriously. I mean, you even see it in Tapestry when he and Troy are going over personnel evaluations. Actually, they do that in several episodes. But that's one where they interview young Lieutenant Picard. So, I mean, and even then, he's trying to give Picard some good stuff because he doesn't really have anything bad to say. But he's like, yeah, I don't really see you having much in the way of. You're not really showing much. You've only been in Starfleet 40 years.
Yeah, you never took a risk. You never made a name for yourself. Like that's the thing.
But
from Tapestry, by the way, everybody.
Right, but at this point, you also see
season 7.
Riker. No, that was season 6.
Shut up! You're right.
I can see where Riker's coming from. Still not great because as the XO, it shouldn't have reached the captain.
No, it never should have, right? That's the other thing.
Geordi was his boss. He was struggling. He had to go to Riker. Riker should have been trying to throw some of these ways to do at it, but Riker just decided he didn't like Barclay either.
Right.
And
so he just went to the captain.
Sometimes that happens. Well, sometimes that happens. I've gone to my boss and he hasn't had answers, and we've had to go to the next higher level. It happens. It happens.
FYI, Tapestry was episode 15, season 6. So I just want to solidify how right you were.
I'm good with that.
And I'm the asshole, so.
You're good with that too.
Yeah, I am. Keep going.
But Picard shows true depth of his leadership. Now, granted, he has more time in Starfleet than both of them have been alive, probably.
Yes.
He served as captain of the Stargazer for 22 years. Okay.
Yeah, it's easy to forget.
Yeah, 22 years as captain of the Stargazer, and then that was like 7 or 8 years prior to him taking command of the Enterprise. So there's 8 more years or whatever, and then whatever the 5 or 6 years he had prior to becoming captain of the Stargazer. So there you go. You got 30, 35 years. So he's been in Starfleet as long as some of these guys have been alive. He gets it. All right. He's been a captain, He spent as much time as a captain as these guys would have probably spent alive before they graduated from Starfleet Academy.
Yes.
But he shows that depth of leadership, this thoughtfulness, and he had both a little bit of the carrot and the stick. He's like, all right, we're going to help this guy, but you guys are going to get your shit together.
Right.
And I appreciate that. Okay.
Well, he went to his commanding officers, he went to his officers that were reporting to him and said, "You're not doing it right. So get it together." And I'm just repeating what you're saying in a different way.
Right.
But
he clearly, and sometimes you probably things maybe you didn't see where they're like, well, this is the issues we're having. And it's like, all right, well, what have you done? Well, this is what we did. Well, you need to. Is that the only thing you did? Well, yeah. Well, have you tried doing something different? Don't just stop at the one thing, right?
Right. This is a human being we're talking about.
Right. And that works, right? But Barclay was also, going back to the whole discussion point, Barclay was somebody who did have capabilities, just like Tilly has capabilities, right? She's proven herself to be fairly valuable. Now, no one says that you should maybe have Reg Barclay, at least while I was on board the Enterprise D, lead an away mission on a dangerous planet.
And we never saw him do that.
No. But they did show him progressing. Still very much a hypochondriac, still shy and a little awkward, but better. All the way up to his single scene appearance in First Contact, where gladly or happily Reg was not assimilated by the Borg.
Thank God. Thank God. I was so happy to see him in that scene in First Contact, by the way. You were sitting right next to me when that happened. I think I blurted out, "Reg!"
It was just nice, kind of nice.
That was fun. It was
It
fun
was
to
still
see.
awkward Reg Barkley, which is what you expect.
Yeah.
And it was cool. And of course, he does have some backsliding, which happens to people who have addictions or who has problems, when he's dealing with Voyager and in Voyager.
Sure.
But he also becomes very key in opening up communication with them. He becomes he proves to be a vital member of Starfleet. Again, some of his problems comes from his confidence issues, his inability to communicate him as well. So you see that, and Reg does show he stutters less as he gets more confident. So there's progress, which is great.
And that's a consequence of Geordi and the Enterprise crew working with him.
Yeah.
And teaching him. And then he goes to Jupiter Station.
Yeah.
Where his commanding officer is a very caring officer. I mean, wary of his history, aware of it, and working his command style around Reg's needs.
Correct. You have another example of a superior trying to work with somebody and get the best out of them. Captain What's-Her-Face, I don't remember her name because I refused to watch that short trek a second time.
Awful. Yeah, just awful.
She just ran into the wall. If Picard was her commanding officer, she'd do better. Because she just did nope, you're not listening. Whatever. Screw you. Not going to listen. And yes, they make this character a blabbermouth who has no whatever. But again, there's no, and granted it is a short trek, so it's not really designed to be long, but there is no alternative approaches with this guy.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And as far as Tilly goes, they almost kind of, it seems to abandon some of these quirks that she had earlier in her career, because it kind of makes her seem like she might be partially on the spectrum in the first season. Something like that. There definitely seems it's more than just a quirky personality. You know what I mean?
I think it's up for interpretation. I didn't see
Possibly.
that, but I'm not going to refute it either.
But they also seem to ditch some of this stuff that's more than just a confidence issue.
Sure. Yeah. I grant that. Yeah.
And Burnham does try to start helping her build up, helping her, get into shape. They were running around the Discovery, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Working towards, getting herself, because that was something else. Like she was not only, closed off about kind of her capabilities, but also her physical fitness, and people start coming on board to kind of help her with stuff. I think Stamets starts to kind of eventually be less dickish and listen to her.
Mm-hmm.
And Burnham's working with her on her fitness as well as stuff. But Saru really starts to take her under his wing later on too. I mean, clearly he shows confidence in her when he makes her his first officer, despite that being a extremely bad morale idea. Mm-hmm. But I've mentioned that enough already. But the fascinating thing is they seem to just throw things out on some of these characters. So some of Tilly's progression, I know you didn't watch season 4, but she kind of ducks out about halfway through the season because she's going to go work at Starfleet Academy.
Yeah.
And but one of her last episodes before she has a, I don't know, cameo or something at the end of the season was she's with one of the first group of cadets. She's got some cadets with her, and they're doing a training, and their shuttle crashes, and it's bad. And then everybody's panicking, and she's like trying to get him, and nobody's listening. I'm like, what the fuck are you? You're a fucking lieutenant in Starfleet, okay?
Yeah.
You shouldn't try to get a consensus from them. You're the lieutenant, they're the cadets.
Right.
You can snap their shit together and go, all right, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
But no
just,
buts.
Just having that aura of leadership will
the problem
calm
was
them down.
If they had done this earlier in an earlier season when her confidence still wasn't quite up there, she was literally the XO for like half a season of a starship dealing with commissioned officers.
The only starship that can travel around the galaxy, by the way.
Exactly. And she can't handle 4 scared cadets.
Right.
That is bad writing. It undoes a lot of her character development. And it screws with the character narrative that I'm sure they were trying to go for. And of course, it kind of also invalidates some of the points of this little thing on that Facebook post. Okay, sure, she eventually uses their differences and expertises to like solve the problem or whatever, but she can't get these kids under control. I mean, yeah, they're new kids. They probably don't know anything about anything, as far as these kind of situations. But you're the leader. You're the officer. You have to get them together.
Right.
And you're trying to get, like, excuse me. Hey, everybody, we are going to solve this problem. You got to project that confidence. And if you can go ahead and tell the leader of the Emerald Chain to fuck around and find out, and you can't handle these cadets,
good luck.
I don't know if they were trying to set this up like Tilly's version of Disaster.
Which, by the way, is the fact that Lieutenant Commander Troy, Counselor Troy, had to be reminded she was Lieutenant Commander junior grade. Like, she had to be reminded that she had a rank.
Lieutenant Commander junior grade?
Wasn't she? She was Lieutenant Commander.
Where did you get junior grade from?
I don't know. There's like
that's Lieutenant junior grade, then
grade,
Lieutenant, then Lieutenant Commander.
You're right. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm wrong again. Weird. I know. I'm giving you hives.
You are.
But she didn't even remember she was Lieutenant Commander. Like, she was willing to follow Ensign Rowe again because of her assertive personality.
I'll say with this, I bet you if there was a regular lieutenant on the bridge, Troy might have deferred. Somebody who had experience, like, hey, Lieutenant so-and-so is this shift officer or whatever. Okay.
Treat the lieutenant like a seasoned sergeant.
But again, typically, things are a little weird. Like, I ran a base in Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a tenant units under me that were led by senior leaders.
Sure.
But I was in charge of the base.
Weren't you like two levels too low to run a base in Iraq? Like,
I was the lowest ranking base commander in all of Iraq.
Yeah. Something that a major general should have been doing, or something like that.
Either a major or a lieutenant colonel.
Okay.
But I mean, I had an aid station.
Yes.
And I had.
You were doing something far above your.
Look, I had an aid station, and we would rotate through doctors and physician assistants, of different ranks. And if we came under attack, the doctor, the lieutenant colonel doctor, his job is not to take command. That's my job. I'm in command of the tactical situation. Okay. Right. I say, hey, doc, you guys hunker down in the aid station. I'll put dudes out here. I need you to be prepared to handle wounded, because that's what his specialty is.
That's his jurisdiction or her jurisdiction.
You have
this is your jurisdiction.
You have a lieutenant, and actually the lieutenant was killed, and that's what happened on Disaster.
Oh, that's right. In that episode, you're right.
Yeah, the bridge officer was killed. That's what happened. If that bridge officer was still there, she would have tactical control.
Right.
Even though Troy outranked
She was at
her,
the
'cause
con,
that's not
right?
her. She was somewhere against a bulkhead or something.
I need to rewatch that episode. Damn it!
It was a good episode.
It was a great episode. I love it.
I mean, I get it. Once you're now down to a chief warrant officer and an ensign, Troy really kind of did need to take over just because the entire situation required it. I agree. I understand that piece, right? You're in space, shit's going to happen. Did they play a little bit loose with both Roe and Troy's characters? Just a tad, but not so much that it felt like out of character per se. Plus, that was like
Roe
Roe's
being
second
a little
appearance.
attitude-y against a commanding officer, and
mean,
wanting to separate the saucer section and let everyone die in the engineering.
She's
section.
like Shaxx. Eject the warp core.
Yeah. They could all be dead. We don't know.
It must be a Bajoran thing.
It must be.
I definitely
That's
have
so
seen
funny.
things where they're like Roe seems a little out of character, but this is like stuff you've reread later on. Like, wasn't this her second appearance?
Yes,
mean,
I know, right?
Weren't they still building her character?
It's hard to take that into context. Like that was their second or third appearance at most.
When you start looking back on it, then you do a later review after you've already seen this whole character.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you can, but if it's like the second only time you've seen a character, somebody who might feel a little more comfortable speaking their mind, even though she didn't have any problem speaking her mind to, Picard and Riker and her first episode. So,
yeah.
Look, the way I see it is, when you look at the notes that they put out about Tilly and O'Brien, I feel like they undersold O'Brien a bit. They wiped out every time that they would read off all the commendations on O'Brien, which was read off a bunch of times on Deep Space Nine, all the skirmishes and battles he was in, the fact that he was basically like a sergeant major when he was the head of Deep Space Nine, engineering.
Mm-hmm.
He was like the highest enlisted rank you could go. And
was that what those three chevrons were? Sergeant major, basically.
I don't know. I mean, it was like,
I have no idea what
I think
that was.
it was like Master Chief Petty Officer or something like that. So Master Chief is an E9 rank, which is the highest rank in for military enlisted in the United States.
Sure.
O and E being the pay grades, right? You're an O1, you're a second lieutenant, you're an E1 for enlisted, you're a private, brand new, a sergeant with 3 stripes, that's an E5. I was a major, O4, that's the 4th grade. So, you move up, there's a few more ranks in the enlisted rank than there are in the officer rank, but that's a different, at least below the general officer
ranks. So,
well, they were naval rank, yes, but basically O'Brien was like the senior non-commissioned officer. He wasn't just the chief engineer, so to speak. He was the senior non-commissioned officer.
Sure.
Did you ever see anybody else looking like that? No, you didn't. Okay, so he
never
was the
saw
top
any
dog.
other non-commissioned officer in any way, shape, or form in the history of classic Trek, except Yeoman.
Well, you'd see people who,
crewman Tarsus. Crewman Tarsus.
You'd see crewmen all the time.
Yeah.
You just very rarely did they get anything to do or say aside from maybe
not much
die.
was going on. Yeah, they usually died. Like they were fodder. So,
but anyway,
we're going away from the subject, I think.
But you kind of, like I said, I'm not hating on Mary Wiseman, nor am I hating on Tilly. I do think that post is overselling Tilly a bit.
Well, I
because
think it's just
the writing
reflective.
doesn't do the character as much good as it could have. And how is she more decorated, than so many other people? Even in Discovery.
Sure. But I mean,
she's more decorated than Saru.
Yeah, right. I mean that's the thing. Saru did better than she ever did.
Well, they also didn't abandon Saru for like half a season either.
What was the? I mean, there must have been some behind the scenes thing about that, but I don't know. I mean,
maybe I don't know if it was a way. I don't know if she was pregnant. Sometimes that happens when I'd have to look up.
I could. I mean, and that's entirely plausible.
And the character's supposed to be coming back too, so.
Here's my thing. I feel like the people in New Trek, the actors and everything, are the least accessible actors of all Star Trek. Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Discovery, like no fans can really interact with them, talk with them, like have any idea of what's going on with production, because CBS locks that shit down so hard. And they've done that since day one when Discovery was greenlit back in 2015.
Right.
Like they at least were Paramount when TNG was coming about was pretty open with what was going on. And they accepted scripts from the public. Like they're like, "Hey, you fans, you're part of this whole thing. Submit your scripts. We'll take a look at them. We'll buy them from you." Like, I mean,
there were
good
many.
luck trying
There were
to get
several
something like that now. Like, there are a lot of scripts, dozens, if not, 50. Probably not 50, but I mean, there were dozens of scripts bought from fans that worked well with TNG, and worked, and it went all the way through DS9. I mean, DS9 was a little less acceptable because it was more serial, but.
Well, not only that, but you also, the franchise was more stable by then.
True. And you're right. The whole reaching out to the fans for scripts was a thing. And TNG was the only show that ever did that. I remember people would come to me, adults, and be like, "I'm writing a script for the X-Files. I hope they accept it." I'm like, "Good luck with that." And I'm 14. Like, they don't do that. Chris Carter does that. So, but
J. Michael Straczynski wrote like 80% of like
Babylon 5 stuff.
Babylon 5, and most of the stuff after season 1 was all written by him.
Yeah.
Except for the one episode written by Neil Gaiman. I just learned that.
Oh, there was one episode by him, huh?
Yeah, it was basically their Lower Decks episode.
Oh, of course it would be. Like a little bottle episode?
Yeah.
Nice. I like that.
It actually was pretty interesting, but it was essentially their version of Lower Decks.
Right.
2 dudes on the maintenance crew who just seem to pop in and out of the big events going on in the day. So.
And they're seeing the big events happen from
exactly.
Where the audience is seeing it from their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that's cute. I like that.
Yeah, it was from season 5. I liked it. But anyway.
Nice. I just want to say, I can understand clunky writing as a writer. My first book, Changeling Chronicles,
extremely clunky.
Especially
when you drop it down the stairs.
I'll fully accept this. Yeah, thank you. I'll fully accept the fact that the love story was a little forced. Okay.
Oh.
But
so you could write for any TV show today. Good job.
I know. Well, it could probably come off as like Shakespeare now in comparison to what we're seeing.
So you had Black Widow and Hulk get together?
Not quite, but yeah. Oh my God, the scene where Iron Man says, "Banner, you better not be playing hide the zucchini." I'm like, that played in my head today. I'm like, oh, gross. That should never have been written and approved. Gross. But it happened. My point is, I can understand. Whedon. I know that is Joss Whedon. I can understand sloppy writing or clunky writing. My second book with very established characters, I've had people come back to me going, "I can't put this damn thing down." Like I read half the book in 3 hours, and it's a long book. It's almost 400 pages, and they did it in 3 hours, like half the day, whatever. So if you establish a good ground construct, it comes easier. But we're not seeing that from Star Trek Discovery. We're not seeing that in Strange New Worlds. In fact, I would say that season 2 of Strange New Worlds, and we haven't really picked on the writing for Strange New Worlds, but I don't think it's a secret that I think Strange New Worlds season 2 is a step back for Star Trek.
It was definitely, I think, less consistent.
Exceedingly less consistent. And I'll grant you that. So I guess the question is, there's a lot of egos in Hollywood. When are those egos going to be beaten down enough to the point where they can't have a voice anymore and they're going to get better writers? And we can't have these shills. What this past
year was about.
We can't have these shills like Star Trek Forever trying to promote newer Trek over classic Trek and convince the fans. Because here's the problem. Here's the fatal flaw when it comes to Star Trek with these studios. Star Trek fans are smart.
That's the rumor anyway.
They are. They are. Star Trek fans are smart. How many Star Trek fans have been turned into physicists, astronauts, mathematicians, doctors, engineers, all of them. All of them.
Soldiers.
You are a soldier who is I mean, I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass, but you were a major in the Army. You're a major in the Army. That's to be commended, dude. Like that's admirable. Not to admirable.
I appreciate that. I really do. I don't know. I mean, I get to watch strong, and for me, it's more about the strong leadership. Like some people delved into the STEM world because of Star Trek. I had examples of good leaders: Picard, Sisko, Kirk, Janeway. There were good things to take from all of them.
Yeah.
In my more formative years. And I learned, I saw things I liked out of them. I could throw in a John Sheridan too. Optimus Prime even. No joke.
Yeah. No, I fully get it. I fully get every single one of those leaders was different, but fully emulable.
There was they had admirable and desirable qualities to emulate.
Yes. You understood that word I said, emulate, emulable. Nice.
Yes.
Good work.
Not entirely sure it's a real word, but I appreciate it.
I don't think it's a real word, but I invented it just now. So
it's a perfectly cromulent word.
Perfectly cromulent. I don't understand what the issue is. So is there hope? I don't freaking know. But this is an interesting discussion, I think.
And again, I just want to reiterate, we are not hating on the character of Sylvia Tilly.
no, we're hating on the writing aspect, and especially we're not bagging on the actors either.
No.
We're just wondering, if you're gonna write this way, where are you gonna go? I guess that's the important question, right?
There needs to be some follow through. If you're gonna put in character traits, you gotta kind of stick with them. Otherwise, the characters become less believable.
Exactly.
And unless you're actually planning on showing them do a regression or a downward spiral, try not to write like that.
Try. There you go. That's what we should tell Hollywood.
Try very hard not to fuck up something good.
Try not to write like that. And on that note, everybody, you guys keep dreaming until the next time. We'll keep working. So long, folks. It's out there.
And from DT Cavman, follow me. We're taking the high ground.
Those Sci-Fi Guys is an independent broadcast by Outlet Play Productions, produced by DT Capman and P.S. McKay. Music courtesy of Camtasia. For more information on upcoming episodes, follow P.S. McKay on Twitter at P.S. McKay, or go to thosescifiguys.com for past episode information.